The gut is comprised of essentially your esophagus, your stomach, and your intestinal lining. It also includes the microorganisms that reside in your intestinal tract. The gut microbiome contributes important functions for health and longevity. Some examples: it regulates your immune system, vitamin and mineral production, neurological function, brain function, your mood, even our metabolism and your body weight. The gut microbiome is now considered a separate organ system within the body. The gut microbiome is made of trillions of microorganisms that span the length of our intestinal tract, which is 3 feet long, going from our mouth to our anus. These microorganisms, they affect each other and their environment in various ways, and they also affect many aspects of our health, both inside and outside our digestive system. The gut microbiome is our garden, and it needs to be tended to with things like diet, exercise, stress reduction, other lifestyle factors. The microbiome is densely populated with a large diversity of microorganisms, which includes bacteria, fungi, viruses, parasites even. The composition of these microorganisms is key determinants of a person's health status. The good bacteria are referred to as being good because they're known to support our health in beneficial ways. For an example, Akkermansia muciniphila is a bacteria that was first described in literature 20 years ago. We know now that it is associated with people who are living longer and healthier lives. Akkermansia produces something called short-chain fatty acids in the gut, and that's basically food that feeds the gut lining, and it keeps the cells tight. Our gut lining is only a cell thick, so it's very, very thin, and it's very important those cells stay very tight to keep toxins and bacteria out of our bloodstream. And what Akkermansia does by producing the short-chain fatty acids is it provides a fuel source for these cells in our intestinal lining to keep them healthy and strong and keep those junctions really tight. What happens when you don't have that and you are lacking in those short-chain fatty acids? What can happen is something that is oftentimes referred to as becoming leaky. When our intestinal lining becomes leaky, is that food particles, undigested food particles, toxins from our environment, from the food and the water that we consume, can escape the intestinal lining. It gets into the bloodstream and it creates a spiral of inflammatory response with the immune system, and that creates chronic inflammation, which then makes a person more susceptible to developing chronic disease. There's really no bad bacteria. There are opportunistic bacteria that in a compromised gut microbiome become pathogens, and that is what poses the health risk. Under certain conditions, chronic stress, medication use, antibiotic use, they multiply and they start to crowd out the beneficial bacteria. An example, Helicobacter pylori is a bacteria that we can get exposed to through water, through food, through saliva. And in a compromised gut, it can create your susceptibility to developing ulcerative disease in your colon, also gastric cancer. Under healthy conditions, H. pylori, I wouldn't pose threat, but it's when our gut microbiome becomes compromised and we don't have enough of those beneficial bacteria that the opportunistic bacteria can then take advantage of that, and then they become a problem. When things are off, eventually there will be symptoms. So those symptoms can look like a lot of things. Some very common ones: gas, bloating, cramping, fatigue, brain fog, headaches, even upper respiratory, a runny nose, chronic cough. All of those can be tied to the gut microbiome.